Make some tomato pasta. Of course, we get some pasta water.
When your dad is one of the most focused and hardworking athletes on the planet, failure doesn't hit lightly. And that's exactly where Brooklyn Beckham finds himself now. This isn't just another family argument. It's a story about pressure, pride, and what happens when fame clashes with real expectations. Lately, the Beckham family has stopped pretending that everything's all sunshine and smiles. The cracks are showing. And even though no one's shouting it from the rooftops, the message, especially from David Beckham, has been loud and clear. Brooklyn Beckham's been framing his split from the family as some bold move for freedom, but behind the glitz and the social media posts, things look very different. David Beckham's calm but cutting actions have been saying a lot more than any public statement ever could. His recent interviews, his tone, even his choice of words, they all paint a picture of disappointment, frustration, and a growing belief that his eldest son just isn't ready to stand on his own 2 feet. He didn't call Brooklyn out directly, he didn't throw a fit, but his cool remarks about mistakes, responsibility, and learning the hard way hit like a quiet thunderclap. Coming from a man whose entire career was built on dedication, repetition, and earning respect through sweat, those words cut deep. And while Brooklyn keeps talking about being independent and finding his own path, his journey so far tells another story. A story of half-finished ventures, sudden career switches, and doors that open because of the name he carries, not the work he's done. That's the part that stings the most, because now as Brooklyn tries to distance himself publicly, David and Victoria seem to be doing something that's both subtle and savage, stepping back and letting their son face the weight of his choices alone. Now the Beckhams have shifted their focus, and not quietly, to the kids who are actually grinding, showing progress, and proving they can stick to something long enough to earn respect. Romeo Beckham is out there strutting down major fashion runways like a pro, while Cruz Beckham is busy carving out a real music career, touring, dropping songs, and staying locked in on the hustle. That's where the spotlight's shining now. The family might not clap back directly at Brooklyn's claims, but their public love for Romeo and Cruz says everything without a single word. This isn't coincidence, it's a calculated move. David Beckham has always had one rulebook, whether on the field, in business, or at home. You show up, you put in work, you take the hits, and you finish what you start. If you don't, the world keeps moving and it doesn't wait for you. Sadly, Brooklyn's track record tells a different story. His first shot was football, a natural fit, right? He had access to the best academies, elite coaches, and every advantage possible. But after all those years, nothing really clicked. No contracts, no standout moments, and no real career to show for it. Then came photography. Brooklyn landed high-profile gigs, fancy magazine spreads, and even a sleek photo book before most photographers get their first break. But once again, the same cycle repeated. Big start, flashy exposure, and then silence. Projects dropped with buzz, got attention fast, and then faded just as quickly. And before anyone could blink, he'd already moved on to something new: cooking. From viral clips to talk show spots, Brooklyn Beckham's face has been everywhere, but not always for the right reasons. He admitted himself that he had no real culinary training, no background in professional kitchens, no serious experience at all. Yet somehow he was suddenly being branded as a chef, handed big media platforms, and treated like a food expert. The internet didn't go easy on him, and instead of proving the critics wrong, Brooklyn dipped out before he could even build credibility. Then came the business ventures, hot sauce lines, lifestyle projects, whispers of opening a restaurant. It all sounded exciting at first. Every new announcement was pushed as the thing that finally showed his real passion. But after a while, even his biggest supporters started to see the same tired pattern: grand launches, big talk, and then a quiet fade out. That's when the whole Nepo baby label stopped being just gossip. It started to sound like the only explanation that made sense. Brooklyn's never been short on resources. He's got connections, money, and more media attention than most people could dream of. What he's missing, according to critics, and more it seems his own parents, is consistency. The ability to stick with something, to push through when it's not glamorous, and to actually finish. That's why David Beckham's recent tone has people talking. When asked about his kids and mistakes, David didn't defend Brooklyn or echo his frustrations. Instead, David spoke calmly about education, responsibility, and learning through failure. That hit hard because his message was clear. Mistakes are part of growth, but they come with consequences. You don't earn independence by announcing it. You prove it through action. And while Brooklyn paints his distance from the family as a fresh start, the truth is he's still living in the comfort of that Beckham safety net. Brooklyn's living comfortably, no doubt about that, but working only when he feels like it, and no one really knows what his actual profession is anymore. That's what's got people whispering, and maybe even David Beckham quietly asking himself, what happens if Nicola Peltz walks away? Because let's be real, Brooklyn's world is tied to that marriage in every single way, socially, emotionally, financially, and even in his public image. Nicola comes from serious money. Her family's got power and connections that could rival the Beckhams themselves. But if that bond ever breaks, what's left for Brooklyn? No stable career, no proven business, no solid income that stands on his own name. It's a tough truth that hangs in the air. Without his wife or his parents' influence, Brooklyn's foundation looks shaky. And that's exactly what makes the comparison to his brothers sting even more. Romeo Beckham jumped into fashion and stayed there. He put in the work, showed up season after season, took the criticism, and came back stronger every time. Now he's walking runways for top-tier brands and actually earning respect in his own right. Cruz Beckham is doing the same in music. Instead of dabbling or hopping from one thing to another, he's building something real, writing his own songs, performing live, and slowly building a fan base without relying on family fame. When Cruz hits new milestones, his parents are right there cheering him on, proud and loud. And those posts from Victoria and Beckham about Romeo and Cruz, they're not just sweet mom moments, they're quiet statements about which kids are truly putting in the work. Those posts weren't random, they were signals, messages about hard work, discipline, and what truly earns respect in the Beckham family. And guess what? Brooklyn noticed, and so did the internet. As his accusations started blowing up online, the rest of the Beckhams stayed cool, collected, and completely in sync, showing up at fashion weeks, celebrating each other's wins, and making public appearances that screamed one message loud and clear: life moves on, and it rewards the ones who show up. David Beckham has never believed in shortcuts, ever. His entire life has been a masterclass in grit, repetition, and constant growth. Every success he's had came from showing up, taking criticism, and doing the work again and again until he got it right. That's why this moment feels so raw, because for David, success isn't something you inherit, it's something you earn every single day. And right now, the truth stings. Brooklyn hasn't earned it yet. He talks about wanting freedom, independence, and a life outside his parents' shadow. But freedom without responsibility isn't independence, it's comfort. That's what makes this feud so deep and personal. It's not just father versus son, it's discipline versus entitlement, action versus excuses, values clashing right in public view. And here's the twist that's got everyone talking. David and Victoria didn't lash out or try to clear the air. They didn't post emotional statements or feed the drama. Instead, they stayed silent. But their silence said everything. No chaos, no shouting, just calm confidence, and a message that hit harder than any public feud ever could. The Beckhams didn't flinch. They doubled down on the values they've lived by since day one. And instead of defending themselves, they stood proudly beside the kids who actually live out those same values. Some people see their silence as cold, others call it calculated. But anyone who's followed this family knows that silence has always been their loudest statement. David Beckham knows media pressure better than almost anyone alive. He's lived through scandal, tabloid storms, and global headlines that would crush most people. He understands exactly how fast public sympathy shifts. One minute they love you, the next they're tearing you apart. If David wanted to shut this whole drama down, he could have done it in a single interview, one emotional quote, one sit-down moment. But he didn't. Instead, he let Brooklyn speak, and that silence wasn't fear, it was confidence. Because when Brooklyn went public with his frustrations, he didn't expose some dark family secret or shocking betrayal. What he really revealed was years of bottled up resentment and disappointment, feelings that come from missed chances and unfulfilled expectations, not control. He painted himself as someone breaking free and finally standing tall on his own. But the timeline doesn't back that up. Brooklyn didn't walk away to chase a strong career path or launch a new business. He walked away to create distance, emotional, public, symbolic distance. But distance isn't direction, and that's the heart of it. For David Beckham, direction has always mattered more than comfort or feelings. His entire career was built on facing harsh criticism, pushing through it, and proving himself through action, not talk. David Beckham's been through the kind of public humiliation most people couldn't survive. He was booed by his own country, written off by critics, and blamed for national losses. And still, he never ran from it. He didn't disappear or make excuses. He fought back the only way he knew, by outworking everyone in the room. That's the world he comes from, and that's the standard he lives by. So when Brooklyn keeps bouncing from football to photography, then to cooking, then to branding, without ever staying long enough to master anything, it's no surprise that disappointment keeps following him. It's not that Brooklyn tried and failed, it's that he keeps quitting, rebranding, and expecting applause every time. That's the part that makes this story stink so much. Critics say his problem isn't lack of effort, it's lack of endurance. Even the projects that still exist seem powered more by fame than actual skill. Brooklyn's food videos blow up online, sure, but people tune in because of who he is, not what he's doing. His products sell because they carry the Beckham name, not because they're changing the game. His appearances get booked because of connections, not credentials. And here's where the Nepo Baby label stops being gossip and starts sounding like a mirror. Nepotism can open doors, but it can't keep them open forever. Brooklyn isn't the first child of celebrities to benefit from privilege, but he's become the example of what happens when access replaces persistence. Other celebrity kids pick a lane, acting, music, fashion, business, and they stay in it. They take the hits, they learn, and they grow. Brooklyn, on the other hand, keeps pressing restart, cushioned every time by family fame, his wife's fortune, and the endless safety nets that keep failure from ever really hurting. And that brings everything right back to Nicola Peltz. Brooklyn made it crystal clear. His marriage isn't just important to him, it's central to who he is right now. He credits Nicola for his peace, his confidence, and his so-called independence. But critics, and maybe even his own parents, are seeing the cracks in that setup. Because let's be honest, independence that depends completely on another person isn't independence at all. If Nicola is the one providing emotional strength, financial stability, and social protection, then where does Brooklyn's own sense of control come from? What happens if that relationship ever gets tested, if it strains, changes, or even ends? That's not just speculation, that's a serious, real-world question. David Beckham didn't find independence by leaning on someone else's foundation. He built his from scratch, brick by brick, with discipline, losses, and hard-earned wins. And that's why the comparison between Brooklyn and his brothers hits so hard. Romeo Beckham didn't just waltz into fashion and coast on the family name, he showed up again and again. He hit the runways in different cities season after season, earning credibility in an industry that's notoriously unforgiving, even to the rich and famous. In fashion, pity doesn't get you invited back, performance does. Cruz Beckham's done the same with music. He could have treated it like a side hobby, but instead he took it seriously, writing, rehearsing, performing, and slowly building something real from the ground up. No shortcuts, no hype, just steady progress and genuine passion. That's exactly why David and Victoria's open support for Romeo and Cruz feels so intentional. It's their quiet way of showing the world which kind of effort they respect the most. It's not about favoritism, it's about alignment. David and Victoria Beckham aren't picking favorites, they're backing the kids who show real effort and consistency. And Brooklyn definitely notices that, which might explain why his frustration finally exploded in such a public and dramatic way. When he accused his parents of being controlling and obsessed with their image, he wasn't completely wrong, but he didn't tell the whole story either. The Beckhams do care about image, absolutely, but their version of image isn't about pretending, it's about discipline, performance, and results. To them, how you present yourself is a reflection of how hard you've worked. Brooklyn, on the other hand, wanted recognition without results, validation without follow-through, and freedom without accountability. But that's not how David Beckham's world works. Never has, never will. And here's the part that really stands out. David didn't slam his son or call them out publicly. He didn't even deny what Brooklyn said. Instead, he responded in his calm, deliberate way, reminding everyone that kids make mistakes and that mistakes are how you learn. That wasn't shade, it was perspective. He reframed Brooklyn's outburst as part of his growing process, not a scandal. It wasn't meant to humiliate, it was a reminder that growth doesn't mean burning bridges and calling it evolution. Meanwhile, Brooklyn's been trying to play it cool, calling his silence a show of strength, but his actions look like those of someone still searching for identity, direction, and the structure that's truly his own. Until he builds that foundation himself, the criticism won't fade because the public isn't judging him by ordinary standards, they're judging him by the Beckham legacy he was born into. And that's the real challenge Brooklyn Beckham faces right now, the weight of a last name that means excellence, hustle, and endurance. Every move he makes is compared to a father who earned respect with sweat and a mother who turned her name into a billion-dollar brand. That kind of legacy can be inspiring, but it can also be suffocating when you're still trying to prove who you are. People aren't just watching Brooklyn, they're waiting to see if he'll finally commit to something that lasts longer than a headline. Because the truth is, the world's already seen what happens when he starts strong and fades out. What no one's seen yet is him finishing something. And if he ever wants to step out under that family shadow, that's the only way it'll happen. Behind the glam and the gossip, this story isn't really about fame, it's about identity. It's about a son trying to find his own rhythm in a family where success is the standard, not the goal. Brooklyn's still got every opportunity in the world, connections, money, visibility, but none of that matters unless he learns what David's been saying all along. Independence isn't given, it's earned. And that's what makes this whole feud so captivating. It's not villains and heroes, it's generations clashing over what success really means. David represents discipline, Victoria embodies precision, Romeo and Cruz show consistency, and Brooklyn, he's standing at the crossroads, still figuring out whether he wants the grind or just the glory. But here's the twist that makes this whole story so fascinating. Nothing's final yet. Brooklyn still has every chance to turn it around, to show the same grit his father did, and to turn criticism into motivation. The world loves a comeback, and if he can find that inner fire, the next chapter could flip the entire narrative. Because at the end of the day, legacy isn't something you inherit, it's something you earn. Fame can get you attention, but character earns you respect. And for Brooklyn Beckham, that's the lesson waiting to be learned, the one that could turn all this family tension into a real transformation story. If you've been following this wild journey, don't just scroll away. Smash that like button, subscribe for more stories that dig deep into celebrity drama, and share this video with your friends. And of course, drop a comment below. What do you think? Is Brooklyn on the edge of redemption, or is he still lost in the shadow of the Beckham legacy? Behind the glam and the gossip, this story isn't really about fame, it's about identity. It's about a son trying to find his own rhythm in a family where success is the standard, not the goal. Brooklyn still got every opportunity in the world, connections, money, visibility, but none of that matters unless he learns what David's been saying all along. Independence isn't given, it's earned. And that's what makes this whole feud so captivating. It's not villains and heroes, it's generations clashing over what success really means. David represents discipline, Victoria embodies precision, Romeo and Cruz show consistency, and Brooklyn, he's standing at the crossroads, still figuring out whether he wants the grind or just the glory. But here's the twist that makes this whole story so fascinating. Nothing's final yet. Brooklyn still has every chance to turn it around, to show the same grit his father did, and to turn criticism into motivation. The world loves a comeback, and if he can find that inner fire, the next chapter could flip the entire narrative. Because at the end of the day, legacy isn't something you inherit, it's something you earn. Fame can get you attention, but character earns you respect. And for Brooklyn Beckham, that's the lesson waiting to be learned, the one that could turn all this family tension into a real transformation story. If you've been following this wild journey, don't just scroll away. Smash that like button, subscribe for more stories that dig deep into celebrity drama, and share this video with your friends. And of course, drop a comment below. What do you think? Is Brooklyn on the edge of redemption, or is he still lost in the shadow of the Beckham legacy?